All right, this is my top five most disappointing NFL teams of 2024. These were the five teams that honestly did worse than I thought they would do. Um, Now, before I get into the list, I want to put an honorable mention. Um, my honorable mention is the Detroit Lions, and it's not because of their record. I mean, obviously the record was excellent. They went 15-2. The reason why I would say the Lions are an honorable mention is because that team had so much potential. That offense was one of the best I've seen in a really long time, and I that Lions were my pick going into the playoffs. The Lions were my pick to win the Super Bowl, and they go one and done. They lose at home against a rookie quarterback, despite being the one seed. So that's an honorable mention. I thought the Lions had an amazing season, but how their season ending was so disappointing that I had to put it as an honorable mention. All right, but let's get into the actual list. At number five, I have the Cleveland Browns. Um, Now go back to 2023. The Cleveland Browns had one of the best defenses in the NFL. Like the Browns defense was so good in 2023. Now we go to 2024, the Browns defense was just not good. And I I said, I think the Browns will regress. I didn't think they would be 3-14 bad. I mean, yeah, I mean, even yes, Deshaun Watson is not as good anymore. I mean, I think the whole like scandals and everything just messed with him because ever since the scandal stuff came out, Deshaun Watson has not been the same. But I didn't think they would be 3-14 bad. Who are the Browns' three wins? There was Jacksonville, it was Jaguars, Ravens, and Steelers. Those were their three wins. Um, but yeah, the Browns were very disappointing. I thought the Browns would have been better. I thought they would have been like I picked them to go like 9-8, I think. But they went 3-14. So yeah, I expected them to digress, but with how much worse they did than what I thought they would do, I had to put them on the list. But up next, at number four, I have the Atlanta Falcons. They got Kirk Cousins in the offseason. I honestly thought, I said, hey, you know what? I think the Falcons will be good. I think they'll be great with Kirk Cousins. I mean, the Vikings have had great seasons with him. I don't think they'll win the division because I am not picking anybody. I am not picking Tampa Bay to not win the division until they do. Same thing with the Bills in the AFC East. But yeah, it was disappointing for Atlanta. They had Raheem Morris. Raheem Morris is not. This is his first year as head coach at Atlanta, technically. Um, but this is not Raheem Morris's first head coach job. Raheem Morris was the head coach of the Buccaneers from 2009 to 2011, and he was the interim head coach of the Falcons in 2020 when they fired Dan Quinn. But I thought, hey, you know what? Arthur Smith is gone. Maybe they won't go 7-10. Oh, they did one game better. They went 8-9. The Falcons had a 6-4 start, but after that they just fell apart. The Falcons did sweep the Buccaneers, who did win the division, but the only reason why the Buccaneers they didn't win the division is because the Bucks went 10-7, and the Falcons had a generational collapse toward the end, and they finished 8-9. Kirk Cousins did not pan out. He had a good start. Kirk Cousins had an amazing game on Thursday night against Tampa Bay where he threw over 500 yards. But it just got to a point where Kirk Cousins just started to suck. He had like a 2-game stretch where he threw 0 touchdowns and 8 interceptions or something like that. Like Kirk Cousins and Baker Mayfield, I think they tied with the most interceptions through with 16. So Kirk Cousins did not pan out. He got so bad to the point where they benched him for Michael Penix. And I think Penix played good, and I think Penix is their future. So maybe Penix, maybe them drafting Penix wasn't so surprising after all. Because man, if you saw that was surprising, and I didn't think he would be playing for a bit. But maybe Penix will be their starter next year. Guess we'll have to find out. All right, up next at number three, I have the Dallas Cowboys. No, I didn't think Dallas would win the NFC East this year. I picked the Eagles to win the NFC East. Now, the reason why is because the NFC East has not had a repeat division winner since 2004. And I said, well, the Cowboys won the NFC East in 2023, so the Eagles will win it in 2024, which means the Eagles won't win it in 2025. It'll probably be either maybe Washington. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, the Cowboys went 7-10. They missed the playoffs, man. The Cowboys were not. They were like 3-7 at one point. Now, granted, Dak Prescott did get hurt, but they were still not playing great even when he was playing. And yeah, the Cowboys, they got swept by the Eagles. They split wins with the Commanders, and they swept the Giants, but that's just because it's the Giants. The Giants suck. But the Cowboys, they had a lot of embarrassing games. That had that game in week 2 where they got blown out by the Saints. And at the time, we thought, man, the Saints are insane. But then we found out, oh, wait, actually, the Saints are not good. And the Cowboys should not have lost that bad to a bad Saints team. And they had a lot of other games that they lost. I mean, they got absolutely demolished by the Lions. That Lions game told me, yeah, the Cowboys aren't good this year. But yeah, we'll see how they do next year. I don't think the Cowboys are going to be good next year. They will have a first-year head coach next year with Brian Schottenheimer, which is a terrible hire. But maybe Schottenheimer will prove the haters wrong. We'll have to find out. At number 2, I have the Miami Dolphins. A lot of people had the Dolphins winning the AFC East this year. I didn't. I said it would be the Bills because I said I'm not picking the Bills to not win the AFC East until they don't win the AFC East. And I just think the Bills are just better. And the Dolphins, man, they had a big degress. Like, what was going on with the Dolphins? They went from having one of the best offenses in 2023 to one of the worst offenses in 2024. And I think in like the first 4 or 5 games, the Dolphins had only scored 70 total points, which they put up that many points in one game the previous season against Denver. Tua, obviously, he was injured for a bit. Tyreek Hill was probably the most disappointing player in 2024. Tyreek Hill did absolutely nothing last season to the point where he got through a hissy fit. He was like, I want to leave Miami. Well, he could have stayed at Kansas City, but you left because you wanted more money, and look where you are. You could have won more Super Bowls at Kansas City, but maybe the Chiefs would have won this Super Bowl if they had Tyreek Hill, but we'll see. I don't know. We'll never know. But yeah, the offense just really struggled. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle didn't play great. Raheem Mostert had an amazing 2023. I think he was the fantasy. I think he was a leading touchdown scorer in 2023. He heavily digressed. Now he got cut. Devon Achane didn't play great this season. The Dolphins just weren't a great team, and I'm starting to question if Mike McDaniel is their guy. Because they made the playoffs 2 of his 3 seasons, but have yet to win a playoff game. I mean, we'll see. I mean, I think Mike McDaniel is good. I think he's definitely making the Dolphins better than they had been with Adam Gase or some season with Brian Flores. But I don't know. I'm starting to kind of doubt the Miami Dolphins a little bit. And finally, at number 1, I think we all know who it is. It's the San Francisco 49ers. Yeah. Who expected this? The 49ers were in the Super Bowl this past season, and then they go 6-11. Now, you could say, well, I mean, Christian McCaffrey didn't hardly played at all. He was, in many fantasy leagues, he was the number 1 pick. I mean, in the fantasy league I was in, my brother had the number 1 pick. It took Christian McCaffrey, and that ended up being a big, definitely the biggest fantasy draft bust. McCaffrey hardly played, and then when he came back, he did not play great, and then he suffered another injury to put him out for the remainder of the season. But despite Christian McCaffrey, the 49ers just did not look good in general. They lost a lot of games. Toward the start, they were winning games. They're the 49ers are doing good without Christian McCaffrey. But then they started losing. And then they had a lot of blowout losses. They lost to the Lions. They got absolutely, embarrassed by the Bills, and they just lost a lot of bad games. I think they got swept by the Cardinals. I think they lost both games to Arizona. I think the 49ers only went 1-5 in their division, which is like the worst they've done in recent history with Kyle Shanahan. Because Kyle Shanahan has had a great record against his division in his tenure as head coach, but this year they went 1-5. That Thursday night game against Seattle is the only division game the Niners won. Yeah, the 49ers, they went from the Super Bowl to missing the playoffs in 1 year. Brock Purdy degressed. He didn't play great. The defense, they had a lot of like great playmakers on defense. The defense didn't really like keep them in games so they could win more. I think they beat the 40. I think they beat the Cowboys on Sunday night, and then after that they didn't win another game. I think they were 6-5, or no, maybe they were 6-6, and then they lost out. But anyway, all right. But that's my list for the top 5 most disappointing teams in the NFL in 2024. Who do you think was the most disappointing team? And in the other video that I made about the most surprising team, who do you think was the most surprising team in the NFL this year? Let me know in the comments. Let me know what you think is going to happen in 2025. Let me know if I included a team that you think should have been on the list, or I put a team in the list that you think shouldn't have been on the list. But thank you guys for watching. See you later.